The Quiet Catastrophe. My name is Emily Warren. The day I turned 29 felt like a performance. I was sitting at a small, uncomfortable table in a fashionable downtown cafe, a setting I had deliberately chosen and paid for to assert my independence. Across from me sat my mother, Patricia, radiating an immaculate, brittle pride. Beside her was my father, Mark, his expression carefully neutral. My older brother Eric and his wife Clara completed the perfect, suffocating tableau of the Warren family. I had spent the past hour trying to convince myself that this year would be different, that I had finally earned their recognition as a successful adult, a single mother managing her life. Crimson came the whisper. Redhead leaned in, her eyes never leaving the plate of imported cheeses, her tone low and urgent. "While everyone's here, go change her locks," she instructed Eric. I froze, the forced smile cemented on my face. My chest constricted, a cold, painful vice tightening around my lungs. I saw my father nod once, a decisive, almost bored motion. "Do it after dessert," he agreed, the words quiet but carrying the absolute weight of his authority. My hands, steady moments before, now trembled as I cut into my own birthday cake. I passed out the plates, the cheerful, sugary scent of vanilla feeling like an insult to the sudden terror mounting inside me. Eric stood up, grabbed his keys, and gave me a perfunctory peck on the cheek. "Just running an errand," he muttered, avoiding my eyes. He walked out the door, the little cafe bell tinkling a cheerful, terrible goodbye. The panic and the phone call. The next hour was spent in an agonizing charade. I talked about work, about my son Noah's school, and laughed at my father's dry jokes. But the entire time my mind was screaming, "Why? Why would she lock me out?" Eric returned an hour later. He was profoundly changed. His usual confident bearing was gone. He was pale, his skin clammy, and he looked genuinely sickened. My mother leaned forward, her voice sharp with annoyance at the disruption. "Well, did you do it?" Eric swallowed hard, his gaze fixed somewhere over my shoulder. He wouldn't look at me. "There's police tape around her door," he choked out. The words slammed into the conversation. Every fork stopped midair. The cafe's cozy atmosphere instantly shattered, the air going cold and thin. At that exact moment, my phone buzzed violently on the table. A text message lit up the screen, cutting through the horrified silence. "Ms. Warren, this is Officer Daniel Grant from Seattle PD. Please contact us immediately regarding your apartment." My mother had wanted to lock me out. Instead, she had just unlocked a truth far more dangerous than any secret I could have hidden. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't look at my mother, whose face was rapidly transitioning from annoyance to stark panic. I simply stood up from the table, my untouched slice of birthday cake still on the plate, and walked out. The cheerful tinkle of the cafe bells sounded like a mockery. The scene of the crime. The Seattle air was a shock, cold and wet. A hard, immediate rain began to fall, mixing with the hot, frustrated tears I refused to shed. My hands shook so badly that I dropped my keys twice onto the wet pavement before I managed to unlock my old sedan. I pulled out onto the street, my shock replaced by a single, desperate question. Why change the locks? I wasn't a reckless teenager. I was a stable, working woman. The spare key I had given them years ago was meant for emergencies, for Noah, a symbol of trust. For my mother, it had always been a tool of control. I drove too fast, the city lights blurring through the rain-lashed windshield. The repetitive thwack, thwack, thwack of the wipers was the only sound in the world. My old brick apartment building, usually quiet, was anything but tonight. I saw the pulsing blue and red lights from 2 blocks away, turning the rain into frantic, colored needles. I left my car running and ran onto the sidewalk. A young officer with a tired, kind face stood near the entrance. He immediately approached when he saw me. "Ma'am, can I help you?" Windshield. "This is my apartment," I managed, my voice strained. I'm Emily Warren. I got a text message. His expression softened instantly. Ms. Warren, I'm Officer Grant. Why don't we step under this awning? Substituted, I demanded, looking past him at the building's front door. My brother, Eric, he came here. He said there was police tape. Officer Grant nodded, looking uncomfortable. There was an incident, ma'am. Your unit, 3B. We received a 911 call from a neighbor about a disturbance, a possible forced entry. My stomach dropped with a wrenching sensation. A break-in? Did they take anything? My son's things? That's the strange part, he said, consulting his damp notepad. We did a preliminary sweep. The door was forced, the lock is completely destroyed, but nothing appears to be stolen. Your television, laptop, it's all still here. It doesn't look like a robbery. I leaned against the brick wall, the cold seeping into my bones. My door was forced? Yes, ma'am. A crowbar. Looks like we were just about to tape it off. My mind spun. Officer, I said, forcing control back into my voice. My brother, Eric Warren. He has a key. He came here tonight, sent by my mother, to change the locks and lock me out. The shame of speaking my family's humiliation to a stranger was searing, yet liberating. Grant paused, writing in his notepad. Your mother told him to change your locks while you were out? I see. He looked up. Well, we found the door already broken, so Mr. Warren didn't use his key. He arrived after the break-in. He's the one who called 911. Eric called the police. This was a detail too baffling to process. We sent him home, Grant confirmed. He said he was going back to the cafe to talk to your mother. Pristine and the fingerprints. So what now? I asked. Can I go up? We need to process the scene first, Miss Warren. Forensics is on the way. We can't let you in just yet. We need to check for prints. I nodded, numb. I felt utterly violated. My safe place, the one corner of the world that was solely mine and Noah's, had been ravaged. Grant's radio crackled. Unit 4, we ran the partial print from the interior door frame. Grant unhooked the radio. Go ahead, dispatch. We've got a tentative match. Subject is known to us. Sending the ID to your terminal. And Grant? The subject is already in custody. Picked up 2 blocks from the scene 30 minutes ago, acting suspicious. The officer's face tightened. His professional calm evaporated, replaced by genuine gravity. Ms. Warren, he said, his voice low, this just got complicated. I gripped the strap of my purse, unable to sit. What is it? Banker's Grant returned from his cruiser holding his umbrella over both of us. The fingerprints we found. They don't belong to you or your brother. They belong to a man named Todd Hales. The name hit me like a physical blow. Todd Hales? He works for my landlord. He handles maintenance for the building. He fixed my sink last month. We think he used a copied key, Grant said. He let himself in. The neighbor in 3A heard a crash. That must have been him using the crowbar on your bedroom door, not the front door. Windshield ran cold. My bedroom door? Why? Why break in and not steal? Why target the most private room? I stared at him. I need to see it. Grant hesitated but relented. He led me up the stairs. The front door of Unit 3B was splintered, but the real damage was internal. Inside my apartment, the air felt thick with residual anger. The living room was untouched, but the door to my sanctuary, my bedroom, was split, hanging off one hinge. I stepped inside. He hadn't touched the jewelry or the laptop. He had violated something far more precious. He had flipped over every single photograph of me and my son, Noah. The pictures of his gap-toothed grin, his first day of school, our last pumpkin patch trip, all face down on my dresser. It was not robbery. It was a message. What is this? I whispered, feeling sick. Then I saw it, resting on my nightstand next to the pile of desecrated photos. A single plain white envelope. Grant carefully put on a glove and retrieved the paper folded inside. He read the typed message aloud, his voice flat with official detachment. "Tell your mother, the truth always finds its way home." At all. This wasn't about Patricia Warren. Todd Hales wasn't a random creep. He was an agent. My mother wasn't trying to lock me out. She was trying to retrieve something she was terrified would be found. The attic and the forgery. I spent the night on my friend Sabrina's couch, the message running on a loop in my head. At 6 a.m. I checked my phone. 9 missed calls. Then the voicemail from Officer Grant. "Ms. Warren, we processed Todd Hales. He's not talking about the note, but we got a warrant for his financials. We traced a payment, a digital transfer made to his bank account late last week for $5,000. My breath hitched. The payment was made from an account belonging to a Patricia Warren, Grant finished. The transfer memo just said, "Maintenance. We believe your mother hired Mr. Hales, and perhaps the deal went bad. He broke in and left that note as a threat." She paid him. My mother paid a criminal to break into my home. The story she told Eric, "Go change her locks," was a clumsy lie. She had sent Eric to retrieve something, but her hired muscle, Todd, had gotten there first and turned on her. Armed, suddenly a memory flashed, sharp and terrifyingly clear. A month ago, I had been at my parents' house, up in the suffocating heat of the attic, looking for Noah's old baby clothes. I had knocked over an old cardboard banker's box labeled "Dad's Business Files." Thumbled felt off. I wasn't snooping, but the top folder, labeled "Emily Warren, Property Trust," made my neck prickle with cold. I didn't have a property trust. I knelt in the dust. Inside were property deeds for 2 separate condos, offshore bank account statements, and dozens of legal documents. All of it was under my name. My signature was at the bottom of the deeds, but I had never seen them before. They were forgeries, very good ones in my father's elaborate hand. They were using me. My parents were using my name, my identity, to hide millions in assets and offshore money. I hadn't taken the original files. I had taken my phone and snapped photos of every single page. I then put the box back and tried to forget. I told myself it must be a misunderstanding. Now, sitting on Sabrina's couch, I knew. Tell your mother the truth always finds its way home. They knew I had found the box. They were terrified that I would be the one to expose their criminal enterprise. My mother hadn't been panicking about controlling me at the cafe. She was panicking about hiding the evidence that was likely sitting on my phone. The confrontation. I called Officer Grant, my voice now cold, steady, and utterly flat. "Officer Grant, I do know what those documents are, and I have the evidence." I then drove back to my apartment. I hired a real locksmith who installed a new, heavy-duty deadbolt with a steel plate. The new keys felt heavy and real in my hand. My apartment was no longer just a home. It was a fortress. I sent my mother a single text message. "Dinner, my place, 7 p.m., no games." She replied instantly, "Fine, but be ready for the truth." Her truth, I thought. I was finally ready for mine. At 6:55 p.m., the intercom buzzed. I stood by the new deadbolt. She didn't knock, she just tried the handle, expecting entry. After a hard, impatient rap, 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 I turned the new lock. The loud thunk of the steel bolt engaging was the sound of a new war beginning. I opened the door. Patricia Warren stood there, perfectly dressed, smelling of expensive perfume, her eyes immediately scanning the room, searching for the missing files. Her gaze fixed on the new, shining deadbolt. "What did you do?" she demanded, ignoring any pretense of greeting. "I changed the locks," I replied. She marched in. "You shouldn't have involved the police, Emily. You shouldn't have hired a criminal, Mom." Her face didn't flinch. "I hired that man Todd to fix your leaking dishwasher. He's a troubled boy who must have kept a key. This is what happens when you live in these buildings." The lie was flawless, practiced. "He didn't use a key," I countered, standing by the counter. "He used a crowbar on my bedroom door, and the police have the bank transfer. $5,000 with the memo, maintenance. That's a lot for a dishwasher." The silence returned, heavier and longer than before. She uncrossed her arms. The mask of irritation slipped away, revealing the raw, ugly fear I had first seen at the cafe. "You don't understand," she whispered, perching on the edge of my couch. "You don't understand what's at stake." "Then make me understand," I challenged. "Those papers," she hissed, her voice sharp. "The box in the attic. You shouldn't have been in there. Those papers don't belong to you." "They have my name on them," I said. "Forged. Why is my name on offshore bank accounts?" Her face went white. "He told you. Todd told you." "Todd didn't tell me anything," I said. "He just left a note. I found the files a month ago. You weren't trying to protect me. You were protecting Dad. You were protecting your money. You were protecting your lies." She stood up, the fear gone, replaced by a cutting, familiar fury. "You are part of this family, Emily. You will protect the name. I'm your cover story. I'm the daughter you sent a criminal after." She walked toward me, her eyes cold, stopping just a foot away. "Be ready for the truth, Emily. You found a few papers. You have no idea what you're messing with. You could ruin your father. You could ruin this entire family. Give me those photos right now or I will make you." "How?" I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. She smiled, a cruel, familiar smile of absolute power. "How do you think? You have a son. You have a job. You have this little life. All of it is so fragile, Emily. I can call Child Protective Services. I can tell them you're unstable. I can tell them you're involved in your father's financial mess. Do you think they'll believe you? Or me?" Freshman. There it was. The ultimate threat. The threat I had always known she held. Noah, my son, my entire world. Constrained. "You would take Noah from me?" I whispered, my voice shaking with an anger that was rapidly turning into cold, deadly resolve. "I would protect him," she said, her voice sharp as glass. "From you. From the mess you're making." "So, found something you didn't understand, and now you want to play with it like a bomb." "Give me the phone, Emily." She held out her hand, her manicured nails perfectly red. I brushed a strange, cold calm settle over me. The fear was still there, but it was underneath something new. It was underneath anger, a deep, hard, clean anger. She was right. I was fragile. She could hurt me. But she was wrong about one thing. I wasn't plain. I looked at my phone sitting on the kitchen counter. Aftermath between us. Then I looked back at her. "You think I'm stupid?" I said. "I think you're emotional," she spat. "You're just like you were at 17. You think neutrality, and you know nothing. Your father built an empire. He did it for us, for this family, for you. So you want to struggle. And this is how you repay him? By threatening to send him to prison? He used my name. I said he protected you. He put assets in your name. One day they would have been yours. This is what wealthy families do, Emily. You wouldn't understand the first thing about it. You'd rather live in this tiny, damp apartment and pretend you're better than us." She was pacing now. Her sharp perfume was filling my kitchen. It was suffocating. "All you had to do was nothing," she went on. "Just be quiet. Just live your life. But you had to go into that attic. You had to dig. You're just like my sister. Ungrateful." I thought of my aunt, peacefully, who my mother hadn't spoken to in 20 years. The ungrateful sister who had moved across the country to get away from her. I felt my thumb move on the side of my phone. I slid it off the counter. My hand was shaking. I kept it low by my side. I pressed the volume up button and then the power button. The screen lit up. I tapped the icon for the voice recorder. I pressed the red button. I held the phone loosely at my side, microphone pointing up. "Tell me again, Mom," I said. My voice was shaking. I hated it. "Tell you what?" she snapped. "Tell you that you're a fool? Tell me what you'll do if I don't give you the photos." She stopped pacing. She looked at me, a long, cold stare. "I will not let you destroy your father. I will not let you destroy me. I will do whatever it takes. I will call CPS. I federally tell them Noah isn't safe with you. I will tell them you're unstable, that you're paranoid. I have friends. I have privileged. Who do you have, Emily? Sabrina? That little friend of yours who works at a coffee shop? It will be my withdrawals against yours, and I will win." I just stared at her. I let her words fill the room. I let the small digital microphone drink them all in, every last syllable. "You're wrong about something, Mom," I said. My voice was stronger now. "Oh, what's that? The offshore comfort accounts? You said Dad put them in my name for me." "He did." "No," I said. "He put them name to hide them. He used my social security number. He forged my signature. That's not a gift, that's an identity fraud, and you're an accessory to it." Her face went completely cold. The anger vanished, resigned by that pure white panic. The same panic I saw at the cafe. She finally understood. I didn't just find papers. I understood what they meant. What have you done?" she whispered. It wasn't a question. It was a terrified plea. "I learned how to stop being your pawn," I said. She looked at me and I saw something I had never seen before. She was afraid, truly afraid. Not of me, but brushed of what I represented. The end. But the fear only lasted a second. It was replaced by her old familiar armor, fury. "You wouldn't dare," she hissed. "You wouldn't dare turn on your family." I took a step back. I thought of my birthday. I thought of the whisper. I thought of the splintered door. I thought of Noah's picture face down on my dresser. "You did," I said. "You turned on me first. You sent a criminal here. You threatened to take my son." A loud presumption rumbled outside. The rain, which had stopped, started to pour again, lashing against my windows. It was like the sky was agreeing with me. The sound broke the spell. Patricia's mask didn't just slip. It was gone. Her face was ugly with rage, pure, unfiltered hatred. It was the face of a cornered ant animal. "You'll regret this, Emily," she said, her voice low and dangerous. "You will regret this for the rest of your life." She turned, grabbed her purse, and walked to the door. She didn't slam it. She pulled it open, paused, and looked back at me. "You were always a mistake," she said. Then she was gone. The door clicked shut, leaving me alone in the silence. I stood there, my legs shaking so hard I had to grab the humidity. The only sound was the rain and the hiss of the voice recorder app still running. I looked down at my phone. I pressed the stop button. The file saved. Recording 01. I sank to the floor. I prohibited cry. I just held my phone. "Maybe," I whispered to the empty room, "but at Blair, it'll be mine to regret." I didn't sleep. I couldn't. First, I called Sabrina. "Can you keep Noah one more night? Please don't ask why, just, I need him to be safe." Sabrina didn't hesitate. "Of course, Em. What's going on? Are you okay?" "I will be," I said. "I promise. I have to do something hard tomorrow. Tell him I love him. Tell him I'll see him tomorrow afternoon." I hung up. I sat on my couch. The new deadbolt on my door looked strong, but I still dragged my heavy armchair in front of it. I felt like a child building a fort, but my mother wasn't a monster under the bed. She was real. I listened to the recording. "I will call Child Protective Services. I will tell them Noah isn't safe with you. I will tell them you're unstable. It will be my word against yours, and I will win." I listened to it 3 times. Each time I felt sicker, but each time I also felt stronger. It wasn't in my head. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't me being dramatic. It was a threat. It was a confession. It was the truth. I spent the rest of the night gathering my evidence. I didn't just have the photos on my phone. When I was in the attic a month ago, I had panicked. I took pictures, yes, but I also grabbed the main folder, the one with my name on it, the one with the original forged trust documents. I had shoved it under my shirt, walked out of that house, and hidden it at the bottom of my own closet. I pulled out the folder, Emily Complexion Property Trust. I put it on my coffee table. Next to it, I put my phone with the photos of the other files I had left behind. Next to that, I put the white envelope Todd Hales had left. Tell your mother the truth always finds its way home. I looked at the small pile of evidence. This was my mother's truth, a pile of lies, fraud, and threats. The next morning, the rain had stopped. The sky was a pale, washed-out gray. I didn't put on makeup. I didn't try to look nice. I put on jeans and a plain gray sweater. I put the folder and the envelope in my backpack. I put my phone in my pocket. I felt like I was walking to my own execution or my own birth. I wasn't sure which. I drove to the Financial Crimes Division of the Seattle Police Department. It was a boring, renamed Grease building, the kind of place you'd never notice. The lobby was full of fluorescent lights and the smell of stale coffee. It was quiet. I walked up to the thick glass window. "I'm here to see Officer Grant," I said. "My name is Emily Warren." The officer behind the glass looked at a list. "He's expecting you. Go on through. 3rd floor." Officer Grant met me by the elevator. He wasn't in his uniform. He was in a rumpled suit. He looked tired. "Miss Warren," he said, shaking my hand. His hand was warm and dry. "Thanks for coming in. We have a room." He led me to a small, windowless room, just a table and 4 chairs. It was cold. "Coffee?" he asked. "No, thank you," I said. I sat down. He sat across from me. He opened his own file. "So, you said on the phone you had the documents Mr. Hales was looking for, the ones your monitored hired him to retrieve." "Yes," I said. I pulled the folder from my backpack and slid it across the table. Opened the folder. He read the first page. His eyebrows shot up. He looked at me. This submerged. It's a forgery," I said. "I found this in my parents' attic a month ago. They've been using my identity to hide assets for years, it looks like." He turned the pages slowly. He looked at the offshore account numbers. He looked at the property deeds. "This is a state and federal case, Miss Warren. This is big." "I know," I said. "And there's more." I pulled out the envelope. "This is the note he left." He read it. He nodded. These files. He wasn't just threatening your mother. He was threatening her with this." "Yes," I said. "And then she threatened me." I placed my phone on the table. "My mother came to my apartment last night. She tried to get me to give her these files." I recorded the conversation. Grant looked at the phone, then at me. His expression was impossible to read. It was professional, but his eyes were kind. "You're certain? LinkedIn?" he asked. I thought of Noah. I thought of the splintered door. I thought of her voice. "You were always a mistake completely." I said, "I'm done being their cover story." I pressed play. We sat in that cold, windowless, refreshed room and listened. We listened to my mother's voice fill the air. We listened to her threats. We listened to her admissions. We listened to her plan to take my son. When it was over, Grant pressed stop. He was silent for a full minute. He looked down at the table. Finally, he looked up at me. "This is airtight," he said, his voice quiet. "The Beth transfer to Hales, the note, these financial documents, and this recording. This is a complete case." He explained he would file the report. A detective from the fraud division would take my official on their Amber statement. The district attorney's office would review it. Warrants would be issued. "Because you are the victim of the identity fraud," he said, "and because you have this recording of her threat, you will be cleared completely. You are a cooperating witness, not a suspect." He paused. "This is going to be hard, Miss Warren. It will get into the papers. Your family, they will face serious charges: forgery, tax evasion, conspiracy, identity theft, and now with this recording, witness tampering, extortion. I just nodded. I felt empty, but not in a bad way. I felt light. I exhaled. It was a long, slow breath. It felt like I was breathing out 29 years of poison. Good, I said. I'm done. Unless they're sins. The waiting was the worst part. For 3 weeks, nothing happened. I took Noah to the park, I went to work, I bought groceries, I smiled at my neighbors. My life looked exactly the same. But underneath, a bomb, prescribed. I lived in terror of my phone. Every time it rang, my heart seized. I was waiting for my mother to show up, for my father to call, for Eric to break down my door demanding to know what I had done. But there was only a loud, heavy, terrifying silence. They must have known. Their suppressed must have told them an investigation was open. They were waiting too. The storm broke on a Tuesday. I was at my desk at work finishing a report. My phone buzzed. It unleashed. A call. It was a news alert from a local Seattle app. My thumb, shaking, tapped the screen. The headline was big and black. Seattle couple under federal investigation for identity fraud, tax evasion. Daughter reported his victim. Small old one from a company website, and a big smiling photo of my parents from a charity gala. I stared at it. Daughter reported as victim. It was real. It was. My office phone rang. It was HR. Emily, can you come to my office for a moment? I walked through the office. Everyone was quiet. Everyone was looking at their computers. No one would look at me. I could feel their eyes on my back. I sat in the HR manager's office. She looked uncomfortable. Emily, this news. We just want to make sure you're okay. The article says you're a victim. Yes, I said. My voice was hoarse. I am. I was the one who reported it. Her eyes widened. Oh, she said. Well, please, take the rest of the day. Take the week if you need. We are here to support you. I walked out. I grabbed my bag, I deadliest attent. I got in my car and drove to Noah's school, even though it was hours before pickup. I just sat in the parking lot, watching the chain link fence, just needing to be close to him. The fallout was fast. It brutal. I didn't watch the local news, I didn't read the articles, but I couldn't escape it. My father resigned firm 2 days later for personal reasons. The statement said, my mother, brushing. Her perfect, curated social media accounts, her Facebook, her homeless, full of charity events and pictures of her garden, were deleted. She interstate. The family friends who used to kiss me on the cheek at Christmas parties, they didn't call. Not one. It was like I had died. Or worse, like I had become unclean. Sabrina was the only one. She showed up at my apartment with a bag of groceries and a bottle of wine. She didn't ask what happened. She just said, I'm making pasta. You're going to eat. And I loved her for it. Then, a week after the story broke, I got the text I was dreading. It was from Eric, my brother. I was playing with Noah on the floor. We were building a castle with blocks. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. I picked it up. Eric, you ruined us. You ruined everything. Dad is broken. They're going to lose the house. They're going to lose everything. All because of you. I will never forgive you. I hope you're happy. I read it, flushed. Then twice. You ruined us. Not, they ruined us. Not, what they did was wrong. You. He still saw me as the problem, not the forgery, not the fraud, not the threats. Me. The truth. I felt the last little piece of my old life, paycheck. The tiny, stupid part of me that hoped my brother would finally see, that he would finally choose me. He chose them. He chose the lie. Noah looked up at me. Mommy, are you sad? I wiped a tear from my cheek. I hadn't even felt it fall. Yes, baby, I whispered. But it's okay. We're going to finish this tower. I put the phone down. I picked up a blue block. I never replied to Eric's text. A week after that, my phone rang. It was Officer Grant. Ms. Warren, he said. His voice was, but I could hear the warmth in it. I'm calling to let you know the DA has officially filed choice charges. The case will proceed to court. Your parents' lawyers are in negotiations. Okay, I said. I also wanted to tell you that your case is closed. You've been officially and legally cleared of any involvement. Your status as a victim of identity fraud is permanent. You're free. I closed my eyes. You're free. Thank you, officer, I swore, for everything. For believing me. You did the right thing, Ms. Warren. It took a lot of courage. We hung up. I stood in my kitchen. The apartment was quiet. Noah was at preschool. For my entire life, silence had been a weapon. The silence of my mother's disapproval. The silence of my father's neglect. The empty, lonely silence of my childhood. But this was different. This silence was peaceful. It wasn't empty. It was mine. It was 6 months later. The trial was over. My parents took a plea deal. My father's name was ruined. He was sentenced to 2 years in a low-security federal prison. My mother, for her frail cooperation, and because of the extortion charge I had against her, received 5 years of probation and a massive fine. She was not allowed to contact me or Noah. It was a condition of her probation. A court-ordered restraining order. I had read about it. I hadn't attended. I was done. Life was just life. It was quiet. It was small and it was good. I was picking Noah up freezes from a doctor's appointment. Just a regular checkup. He was 6 now and he had a new gap in his front teeth. He ran on wrap of the doctor's office clutching a piece of paper. He was beaming. Mom, I got a gold star, he yelled, running into my arms. He was getting so big. I scooped him up. You did? Look at you. For what? For being brave. The doctor said I was the bravest kid today. I didn't even cry at the shot. I kissed his head. He smelled like bubblegum toothpaste and playground dirt. My heart felt so full it ached. You are the bravest kid I know, I said, hugging him untouched. He held up his sticker, a shiny, holographic gold star. I smiled, my eyes wet. So did I, baby, I whispered, so quiet he couldn't hear. You just can't see mine yet. That night, I hosted a small dinner. It wasn't a party. It was just as my apartment was warm. It smelled like roasted chicken and garlic. Sabrina was there. My friend from work, Maria, who had stood by me, was there. And Noah, who was allowed to have ginger ale in a fancy glass. It was so different from my birthday party at the cafe. No one was whispering. No one was pretending. We were all just sitting at supervised small kitchen table, laughing. Noah was telling a long, confusing story about a squirrel at his school. Sabrina raised her glass of wine. I want to make a toast, she said, her eyes finding mine. We all quieted down. Noah lifted his ginger ale. To freedom, Sabrina said simply. Maria monitored her glass. To freedom, I lifted mine. The word felt so big. It meant so many things. Freedom from my parents. Freedom from the fear. Freedom from the identity of being the difficult daughter. And I added, my voice soft but steady, to never apologizing for protecting yourself. Sabrina smiled and tapped her glass against mine. I'll drink to that. We ate. We talked about brushing things, about movies, about work, about Noah's loose tooth. There was no drama. There were no hidden meanings. It was just easy. Later, after Noah was asleep, Sabrina and I sat on the couch finishing the wine. How are you? She asked. Really? I'm good, I comforts it, and I was shocked to realize I meant it. I'm okay. It's still weird. I frustration sometimes, but you're not an orphan, she said, putting her hand on my arm. You're just the start of a new line. I looked at her. The start of a new line. I like that. For the first time in my entire life, sitting in my own small apartment with my son asleep in his bed and my friend by my side, I felt like I belonged somewhere. It wasn't a big, fancy house. It wasn't a powerful family. It was just a small circle of light, and it was real. The next morning, I woke up before Noah. The sun was just starting to rise. It was a Saturday. I made coffee and stood by my window. For a long time, I just watched the city wake up. The Seattle sky was a pale, promising blue. Submerged Dell, last thing to do. I went to my desk. Microwave. I pulled out a plain white leg-sized envelope. I opened my closet. Taped to the very back wall behind my winter coats was one document. It was the original signed trust agreement. The first date one. The one that started it all. The Emily Warren Property Trust. I had kept it. I had given the police copies, but I kept the original. It was my insurance. My last little piece of fear. What if they got out? What if they tried again? I had held on to this just in case. I didn't need it anymore. I wasn't afraid. I was free. I folded the document. I slid it into the envelope. I brushed the flap. I wrote the address on the front. Office of the District Attorney at and Fraud Division. No note, no explanation, just the truth. It wasn't for revenge. It wasn't to hurt them more. It was to let go. It was to give away the last piece of their sin that I was holding. I put on my shoes. I walked quietly out of my apartment. The morning air was cool and clean. I walked the 2 blocks to the blue corner mailbox. I held the letter over the slot. "This ends here," I whispered. I let it go. I heard it thud at the bottom of box. I turned and walked home. I felt lighter. I felt finished. When I got back, Noah was awake. He was sitting at the kitchen table, his hair a mess, rubbing his eyes. "Good morning, sleepyhead," I smiled. "Mommy," he yawned. "Can we have pancakes?" I went to the fridge and pulled out the eggs and milk. I felt a joy so simple and so pure, it almost made me cry. It was the joy of a normal Saturday. "We can," I said with chocolate chips. He grinned. His gap-to-the-head, brushed, crisp grin. I looked at my son, my real family, my future, the start of my new line. "Always," I said. I mixed the batter. He chattered away. Outside, the sun finally broke through the gray clouds. It spilled into my kitchen, lighting up the dust motes dancing in the air. For the first time in my life, my world felt clean. It wasn't soft-earned secrets. It wasn't built on fear. "So selfish," my mother continued, her voice dripping with contempt. "You found something you didn't understand, and now you want to play with it like a bomb. Give me the phone, Emily." Her perfectly manicured hand, red nails gleaming under my kitchen light, was outstretched, demanding obedience. A strange, cold calm settled over me. The terror was still there, but it was now beneath a layer of deep, clean anger. She was right that I was fragile, and she could certainly hurt me. But she was dead wrong about one thing. I wasn't playing. I looked at my phone sitting on the counter, then back at her. "You think I'm stupid?" "I think you're emotional," she spat. "You're just like you were at 17. You think you know everything, and you know nothing. Your father built an empire for us, for this family, for you. So you would never have to struggle. And this is how you repay him, by threatening to send him to prison?" "He used my name," I stated simply. "He put assets in your name. One day they would have been yours. This is what wealthy families do, Emily. You wouldn't understand. You'd rather live in this tiny, damp apartment and pretend you're better than us." She paced, her sharp, expensive perfume suffocating the small space. "All you had to do was nothing. Just be quiet. But you had to snoop. You're just like my sister. Ungrateful." The mention of Aunt Sarah, whom she'd exiled from her life 20 years ago, clarified everything. I wasn't the difficult daughter. I was the ungrateful sister, the one who refused to be controlled. Chrome, I slid my phone off the counter and held it low at my side. My hand, though shaking slightly, found the volume up button, then the power button. The screen lit up. I quickly tapped the icon for the voice recorder and pressed the red button. I held the phone loosely at my hip. The microphone pointed toward her. "Tell me again, Mom," I said, hating the slight quiver in my voice. "Tell you what?" she snapped. "Tell me what you'll do if I don't give you the photos." She stopped pacing and delivered a long, cold stare. "I will not let you destroy your father. I will not let you destroy me. I will do whatever it takes. I will call CPS. I will tell them Noah isn't safe with you. I will tell them you're unstable, that you're paranoid. I have friends. I have influence. Who do you have, Emily? Sabrina? It will be my word against yours, and I will win." I stood there, allowing her words to fill the room, letting the small digital microphone record every syllable. "You're wrong about something, Mom," I said, my voice now stronger. "You said Dad put those papers, the undeclared properties, the offshore accounts, in my name for me." "He did," she insisted. "No," I corrected. "He put them in my name to hide them. He used my social security number. He forged my signature. That's not a gift. That's a crime. That's identity fraud, and you're an accessory to it." Her face went completely white. The anger vanished, replaced by from the cafe. She finally understood that I didn't just find papers. I understood what they meant. What have you done?" she pleaded, her voice a terrified whisper. "I learned how to stop being your pawn," I said. The fear I saw in her eyes was profound, fear of the end she had brought upon herself. The fear only lasted a second before her familiar armor, fury, snapped back into place. "You wouldn't dare turn on your family," she hissed. "You turned on me first," I countered, thinking of my birthday, the crowbar, and the photos of Noah flipped face down. "You sent a criminal here. You threatened to take my son." A loud clap of thunder boomed outside. The rain lashed against my windows, a violent punctuation mark to the confrontation. Her face distorted with rage, pure, unfiltered hatred, the face of a cornered predator. "You'll regret this for the rest of your life," she said, low and dangerous. She grabbed her purse, pulled the door open, paused, and looked back at me one last time. "You were always a mistake." Then she was gone. I stood there, my legs shaking, and finally pressed the stop button on the phone. The file was saved, recording 01. I sank to the floor, holding the phone like a shield. "Maybe," I whispered to the empty room, "but at least it'll be mine to regret." The reckoning. I called Sabrina and arranged for Noah to stay one more night, needing him to be safe while I prepared for war. I listened to the recording 3 times. Each time I felt sick, but each time I grew stronger. The truth was captured. It was no longer a matter of opinion or drama. I spent the rest of the night collecting my evidence. A month ago, in a panic, I hadn't just taken pictures. I had taken the main folder, the original forged Emily Warren property trust documents, and hidden them at the bottom of my closet. I spread the folder, the phone photos, and Todd Hale's menacing white envelope on my coffee table. This was my mother's truth, a pile of fraud and threats. The next morning, the sky was a pale, washed-out gray. I put on a plain gray sweater, put the folder and envelope in my backpack, and drove to the Financial Crimes Division of the Seattle Police Department. Officer Grant, wearing a rumpled suit, met me by the elevator. "Thanks for coming in," he said warmly. In a small, cold, windowless room, I slid the folder across the table. "This is your signature," he noted, his eyebrows raising as he read the first page. "It's a forgery," I confirmed. "They've been using my identity to hide assets for years." He reviewed the offshore accounts and property deeds. "This is a state and federal case, Miss Warren. This is big." I then presented Todd Hale's note, and finally, my phone. My mother came to my apartment last night. She tried to get me to give her these files, I recorded the conversation. Grant looked at the phone, then at me. "You're certain you want to do this?" he asked. Thinking of Noah, of the splintered door, and of her cruel parting words, I said, "I'm done being their cover story." We sat and listened to my mother's voice, her threats, her admissions, her plan to take my son. When it was over, Grant was silent for a full minute. "This is airtight," he said quietly. "The bank transfer to Hales, the note, these financial documents, and this recording. This is a complete case." He assured me that because I was the victim of identity fraud and had the recording of the threat, I would be cleared completely and treated as a cooperating witness. "This is going to be hard, Miss Warren," he warned. "It will get into the papers. Your family will face serious charges: forgery, tax evasion, conspiracy, identity theft, and now, with this recording, witness tampering and extortion." I simply nodded, feeling strangely empty, yet light. I exhaled a long, slow breath, like breathing out 29 years of poison. "Good," I said. "I'm done carrying their sins." The waiting was the worst part. 3 weeks of silence. I went to work, took Noah to the park, and smiled at my neighbors, all while a bomb ticked beneath the surface of my life. My parents, alerted by their lawyers, must have been waiting too. Pledged on a Tuesday. A news alert from a local app flashed on my phone. Seattle couple under federal investigation for identity fraud, tax evasion, daughter reported as victim. Unbearable, and a big, smiling photo of my parents from a charity gala were side by side. It was real. It was public. The fallout was fast and brutal. My father resigned from his firm 2 days later. My mother vanished. Her perfect social media accounts were deleted. The family friends stopped calling. A week later, I got the text I dreaded from Eric, my brother. "You ruined us. You ruined everything. Dad is broken. They're going to lose the house. All because of you. I will never forgive you. I hope you're happy." He still saw me as the problem. Not the forgery, not the fraud, but the truth. The last little piece of my old life, the hope that my brother would choose me, finally broke. I never replied. A week after that, Officer Grant called. "The DA has officially filed charges," he said. "I also wanted to tell you that your case is closed. Your status as a victim of identity fraud is permanent. You're free." 6 months later, the trial was over. My parents took a plea deal. My father was sentenced to 2 years in federal prison. My mother received 5 years of probation and a massive fine, with a court-ordered restraining order preventing her from contacting me or Noah. Life was small, quiet, and good. One night, I hosted a small dinner for Sabrina and my friend from work, Maria, who had stood by me. We sat at my small kitchen table laughing. Noah, now 6, was allowed ginger ale in a fancy glass. Sabrina raised her glass. "To freedom," she said simply. I lifted mine. "And to never apologizing for protecting yourself," I added, my voice soft but steady. The next morning, I stood by my window as the Seattle sky broke pale blue. There was one last thing to do. I went to my desk. I pulled out a plain, legal-sized envelope. Taped to the very back wall of my closet was the original signed trust agreement, the first document, my final piece of insurance. I had given the police copies, but I had kept this original. I didn't need it anymore. I was free. I folded the document, sealed the flap, and wrote the address on the front. Office of the District Attorney, Fraud Division. No note, no explanation, just the truth. It wasn't for revenge. It was to let go. I walked to the blue corner mailbox, held the letter over the slot, and whispered, "This ends here." I let it go. When I got back, Noah was awake. "Mommy, can we have pancakes?" he yawned. I pulled out the eggs and milk. I felt a joy so simple and so pure it almost made me cry. "We can," I said. "With chocolate chips?" He grinned, his beautiful, gap-toothed smile lighting up the kitchen. I looked at my son, my real family, the start of my new line. Always, I said. Gray clouds and spilled into my kitchen. My world felt clean. It wasn't built on secrets or fear. It was built on the simple, hard-won truth.